This is a fun little thing I like to do called the Anthologist Dissects. While I have a varied education background from psychology to writing to film criticism to fine art from various institutions, I'm quite proud of my training as an anthologist. No, not an anthropologist. Nope. I have spent hours and hours watching anthology horror films. Enough hours to be certified in the complex understanding of what makes a good anthology and what doesn't. I've assembled a quartet of films today to dissect and gab about, and at the end of this video, I'll take one or more segments from this week's picks and make them into one powerful Voltron of a horror anthology. So let's get to dissecting these anthologies and see what makes them tick. Bugs, a Trilogy, is new streaming on Tubi from Magic Dog Productions. It's directed by Simone Kisiel and written by Alexandra Grunberg. Bugs, a Trilogy is an anthology of 3 short films from director-writer-team Simone Kisiel and Alexandra Grunberg. There isn't so much as a wraparound segment as there is close-ups of bugs of all kinds doing what bugs usually do, which is creep me the fuck out. The film opens not by showing the bugs themselves, but the cracks and crevices around the house where they can get in and fester. This is an anthology that really knows what it takes to burrow under your skin from beginning to end. Story 1 is Hatching. It's a shorty about a troubled kid, Elliot, who goes to stay with a family friend played by the writer of this whole anthology, Alexandra Grunberg, while his mother is away to vaguely get better. As the night goes on, Elliot proves to be a true little shit, giving his babysitter plenty of grief. This one, of course, involves some kind of hatching, as the title indicates. It's creepy, crawly, and will definitely leave your skin itching. This one is wonderfully paced, keeping you on the edge into those final itchy, demorbid moments. I loved the echoey voice music that haunts this potent little short film by musician Miriam Mayer. Moving on to story 2, Parasite, and as the name suggests, this one gets damn gross extremely fast. It's about a young girl with stomach problems, played by writer Alexandra Grunberg, who goes to see a doctor and prescribes her an experimental new drug. While the girl hopes it will make her better, the results are less than appetizing. Don't watch this one on a full stomach, folks. You've been warned. The title gives away a lot, and this one turned out to be pretty predictable while wholly gaggingly grody. To slap a cherry on top of this one, the ending shows actual footage of tons of parasitic worms and ticks, just in case you weren't skeezed out enough. The third and final number is called Bedbugs. Ugh, I know. Just the mere mention makes me squirm, and this, the longest of the 3 shorts, does just that. While bedbugs definitely are a part of the story, as this is a tale about a young woman, again played by writer Alexandra Grunberg, who wakes one night from a nightmare and believes her bed is infested with those little critters. Turns out it's a bit more than just bedbugs that is haunting her, as they serve as a metaphor for something much more horrible that occurred in her past. While the message is made clear by the end, I really like the way these tiny monsters are peppered throughout, culminating in a gut-wrenching end when the truth comes out. Just like the other 2, this one will make you squirm, just in a different way. God, I'm still scratching my arms, but I really loved every second, yes, even the Parasite segment of this little trilogy of shorts. While minimal, the effects were, well, effective in causing that itchy, scratchy feel. It's the way these bugs were used in the narrative that made everything feel so gross and intrusive. The film relies on the viewer's own gut reaction to the creatures and leaves a lot unshown and unsaid, taking advantage of that natural repulsion to the subject matter to its fullest extent. Bugs, a Trilogy is a winner of an anthology, and if you have the stomach and thick skin for it, I think you're going to be affected by it as I was. This is a repugnantly good trio of unforgettable tales, and I can't wait to see what's next from this team of Kisiel and Grunberg. Tales from the Hood 3 is streaming on Tubi. It's directed and written by Rusty Cundieff and Darin Scott. Somehow I missed Tales from the Hood 2, but still, this is an anthology, so I don't think that matters what order this series is viewed in. All that matters is that the first Tales from the Hood was a wonderful little piece of horror, assembling black filmmakers and stars to tell stories centered on the black experience, specifically in the US. This second sequel, Tales from the Hood 3, not so much. But it isn't without its interesting moments. Let's look at each story. Story 1 is called Ruby Gates. It comes from Darin Scott, who co-wrote the first 2 Tales from the Hood films, as well as Waist Deep, Sprung, and From a Whisper to a Scream. So this guy has a good resume. He also wrote and directed segments in the second Tales from the Hood, Caught Up, and A Dark House. Ruby Gates centers on a building owner who tries to close down an apartment complex in order to build condos, but one family refuses to leave because their kid has cancer. The owner hires a lunatic to burn down the building, the family is caught in the blaze, and when the owner comes to inspect the carnage, he encounters the vengeful ghosts of the family. This is your typical tale of angry ghosts, so typical that it's downright predictable from the get-go. While there was nothing particularly wrong with it, this one just didn't have enough original ideas to interest me. The Bunker is the name of the second story. This one is from director of the first two Tales from the Hood films, Rusty Cundieff. This is by far the most nuanced story of the bunch, as it depicts what looks to be a standoff between one white man, played by the Funhouse's Cooper Huckabee, as he broadcasts his racist gospel from his bunker against the police gathered outside and the culture of non-whites that he deems to be inferior. This one has a real Twilight Zone feel to it and is the smartest story of the bunch. Huckabee does a wonderful job of convincingly saying some truly ugly things. I won't reveal the twist, but it's one that would make Rod Serling proud. Story 3 is handled by Darin Scott again, and this one is slightly better than the first segment. Operatic is about an ambitious singer, played by Savannah Baisley, who cares for an elderly opera star, played by Lynn Whitfield, who says she can hone the singer's voice into the perfect instrument. This one has some flair at least, and delivered some solid acting, though still was easy to predict. Cundieff returns for Story 4, Dope Kicks, about a true degenerate who goes around sucker punching people and then robbing them on the street. After killing one of his victims, the victim's daughter puts a curse on him. This curse comes in the form of an uncontrollable shits, which is fucking gross. This whole segment made me kind of nauseous, just from the over-attention to feces to the fact that it tries to humanize someone who randomly victimizes innocent and unsuspecting people. It feels morally wrong from beginning to end, and while a comeuppance occurs to this scumbag character, it's played for potty humor laughs, and the road to this punishment isn't satisfying enough for the horrible crimes he commits. The wraparound is by Cundieff as well. It features the late great Tony Todd as a traveler through a post-apocalyptic world of ruin who passes the time by listening to a young child telling all of these stories. While it's not the smoothest way to present an anthology, it gets the job done. It doesn't compare to the original's truly effective wraparound with Clarence Williams III, but Todd adds some dramatic heft to the connective tissue of Tales from the Hood 3. Again, it pales in comparison to the original, but it still has a few segments that are smartly written and capably made. It seems that with this third installment, the budget has been cut exponentially, but even a low budget can't hide interesting ideas and stories. Bearskin is new on demand from Opening Image Productions and Miracle Media. It's directed and written by Mico Montes. Bearskin is an anthology of sorts, as it is about a support group coming together for the first time. Now, in the really real world, the first session should be less about learning the backstories of each person that leads to each member to be in the group, and the focus should be on trust-building team exercises, so people can build the confidence and trust of the group to share these extremely personal experiences. But since this is a movie, Bearskin skips past that and forces each member to reveal the deeply personal and scarring trauma that led them to this therapy session. This makes the film an anthology, sort of, as it tells each member's story, while some of them are simply alluded to, others go into great detail as to what each person endured. This leads to the film's first issue, and that is the fact that it's just shy of 2.5 hours long. That's a lot of time to commit to any movie, let alone a low-budget anthology. I get it, there are 5 people in the group, and each person has to have their own moment, trauma, and psychobabble session assigned to it. That takes some time. Still, I think the runtime works against this film, as it does seem to try to respect the therapeutic aspects most of the time, and give some kind of analysis after each story. It's admirable, but with a good solid edit, knocking off about 45 minutes would help this film immensely. There are scenes like the trust building session and the time when the group takes a break that could have been whittled out altogether for a more succinct viewing without cutting out something too important. I like the way one member's issues tie into others. There's quite a bit of attention to linking these backstories together. On their own, these traumatic vignettes might not work, but if one doesn't grab you, there's another one coming along shortly. Most of the stories need fleshed out, which is ironic since this is such a long movie. The stories can be summed up in about one sentence. First is just a brief snippet about a group member who lost its home to a fire and now seems to be an arsonist who doesn't like to have possessions. The second is about a group member who witnesses the death of her husband at the hands of a kinky leather suit wearing madwoman. The third is about a group member who cowardly leaves his best friend to die at the hands of a violin playing killer. The fourth group member tells about how he was captured and placed in a well for an extended amount of time and how he got out. Finally, the last of the group reveals the story story of how she was sexually assaulted in her home by a door-to-door salesman and how it has scarred her life ever since. Each story is accompanied by the mousy therapist, played by Rachel Alig, giving her two psychological sense about their trauma, as well as reactions from the group that wouldn't be allowed in any therapeutic session, such as, "That's fucked up," or something equally inappropriate. This makes for a rather surface-level film that never stays around one story long enough for investment. I think if one or two of the group members would have been edited out, the film would have been able to delve a little deeper into each of the members' trauma, as well as make for a more digestible runtime. The final moments of Bearskin attempted to tie the stories together, which I saw coming about halfway through, that not only kind of trivializes the problems of each member, but never really delivers on some kind of satisfying finale. In the end, I liked the short stories of each of the group members. Some of them were quite disturbing and delivered some unsettling imagery and moments. I especially liked the violinist with a razor blade on the bow, and the leather fetish scene was nice and perverted. And Rachel Alig delivers a really solid performance as the therapist, as she embodies the mousy, damaged soul that most therapists seem to convey, unfortunately. As a whole, I don't think Bearskin delivers what it intends to do, but I do think it has its moments that make this a mild recommendation. Finally, we have Ghost Train, which is new on demand from Wellgo USA. It's directed by Se-woong and written by Ba-Reun. A young YouTube influencer, Da Kyung, played by Ju Hyun-young, runs a channel focused on true horror stories. After hearing about strange occurrences happening at the Gwanglim subway station, she seeks out station manager Jae Bon-soo and bribes him to tell her ghost stories with bottles of liquor. He begrudgingly complies and tells Dae Kyung a quartet of tales. But as her YouTube channel gets more popular, Dae Kyung needs more stories to maintain her popularity, forcing her to dive deeper into the hauntings and endangering herself in the process. At the heart of this collection of ghost stories is a moral tale that the YouTube influencer culture is made up of the worst of humanity. I know that might sound ironic coming from a guy who posts reviews on YouTube, but I absolutely hate the vanity of the YouTube culture. I'm sure if I put my ugly mug on camera and post thumbnails of me frowning or smiling or acting shocked at the poster of whatever I'm going to be reviewing, I might get a few more likes or subscribers, but that's not why I do this. If my thoughts are appreciated by a small core group of people, that's fine by me. Of course, I'd love to have more viewers, so like and subscribe, but it's not the reason why I do this. But for Dae Kyung, getting more YouTube famous is her life goal. It seems she works in some content farm in South Korea that strives on clicks, likes, and follows, so I guess that's the incentive. But above and beyond, Dae Kyung strives to be seen by more people. The reason I'm highlighting this is because it's an awesome story, and the wraparound in anthologies are usually pretty bad or barely present. So seeing so much thought put into the glue that holds these four stories together not only makes for an interesting story itself, but it also is going above and beyond what most anthologies do. The thing about Ghost Train is that this wraparound is the main story, and most of the attention is given to Dae Kyung's descent into vanity as she goes from a nebbish shrew to a done-up vixen as her channel grows in popularity. While there is another character doing beauty videos who Dae Kyung is jealous of, the more popular she gets, the more like that vapid beauty content maker she becomes. It's a fun moral story in itself, and that's just the tip of the iceberg to talk about in Ghost Train. While each of the four stories are short, or at least go by at a rapid pace, each one has rock-solid scares. Story 1 focuses on a young hipster dude dozing off in a subway who notices a young woman banging her head on the glass. Having ridden on Chicago's multiple train systems, I've seen plenty of things, and the way this guy responds is pretty much the way I would. He moves to another train car, but the woman shows up again, resulting in a terrifying chase through each car. This was fast-paced with some terrifying imagery, but the problem is that it's pretty much the same premise as the second story, where a young woman who is concerned about her looks is pursued by a bandaged woman carrying a cup of acid through the subway. While the first short is effective, this second one was downright bone-rattling, as the short does a fantastic job of communicating the sheer terror of this entire situation. From the slow way the threat is introduced, to the scene of the acid burning the floor as it drips from the mug, to the rampant chase through the subway, this second story was the highlight of the film for me. The next story is about a homeless man who finds a red coin that buys him a red can from a red soda machine. When the can is opened, it seems like it's empty, but soon someone around him disappears into a pile of clothes, leaving more coins behind. The segment goes on to be sort of like a real-life game of Mario Brothers, as the homeless man collects coins to continue to get the clothes and belongings of those he disintegrates. This one stands out simply because the concept alone is so bonkers. Finally, the vain beauty YouTuber mentioned earlier is the star of the fourth story. She reaches for a dangling handle on a train car, and in it is some kind of phlegmy substance. Soon her hand starts breaking out, and in the tradition of Creepshow's Jordie Verrill, the rash continues to grow no matter what the young woman does. Since this is a beauty YouTuber, the importance of her looks are held above all else, so this hits her exponentially harder and teaches yet another moral lesson about vanity that echoes the one being experienced by our main protagonist, Dae-kyung. While predictable, it was fun seeing this shallow person get her comeuppance. The film concludes with Dae-kyung being lured into the subway to experience firsthand what the hauntings are all about. While it is repetitive, as it basically is a person seeing something weird on the train, then moving to another car, only to have that threat follow. Much like the first two tales, because we've come to like the lead, it hits a bit harder. Ghost Train is guilty of repeating the same sort of premise a few times, but it delivers on some absolutely terrifying chase sequences representative of the worst nightmares of commuters everywhere. If you've ever been on a bus or a train or even sharing a flight with someone, you'll identify with the horrors this excellent Korean anthology communicates. Well, now it's time to put together the perfect horror anthology from the parts we have gathered in this video, starting with the connective tissue of the film. And while I think the close-ups of Bugs was great in Bugs: A Trilogy, I am intrigued by the idea of a therapy group as a means to tell a set of stories. So let's instead snag the connecting segments of Bearskin, as the rest of the film's short tales aren't really substantial enough to be a full segment in an anthology. Next, we should start out with a banger of a story, so I'm going to grab The Bunker from Tales from the Hood 3, as it's smartly written and has a clever ending reminiscent of The Twilight Zone. Then let's get serious and skeevy with Bed Bugs from Bugs: A Trilogy, as it is effective and gives one something to think about on the ride home. Finally, let's end with a thrilling chase through the subway as a vain woman runs from a loopy lady with a container of acid from Ghost Train, giving the anthology a story that raises the pulse to a drum roll at the end. And there you have it. Yes, yes! I think we've made another perfect anthology. And they called me mad at the Institute. Have you seen any of these films, or do you plan on checking any of them out? And what makes a good anthology for you? Let me know down in the comments. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside